Joining me now is Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, who won his third term last night, and we congratulate him heartily. And so, Senator Johnson, first of all, I knew you would do it. You probably doubted it. I never doubted it. You always win. What's the secret sauce? What puts you over the line? I'm asking a serious question. A lot of people today, you know, would have preferred to get over the line. They may or may not make it. What, in your judgment, puts you over the line in a tough Wisconsin race?
I always tell the truth. I'm honest. I'm forthright. People may not always agree with me, but they realize that what I tell them is what I believe, and I don't hold back any punches. And I think that's what people want. You know, also I think people realize that I'm not doing this because I want to be somebody or want to be a U.S. senator. I'm very serious in my purpose here. We have, serious problems that need fixing, and that's what I intend to do.
You've always been steadfast as long as I've known you. You have a backbone of steel, so I'm delighted that you won. You're going to be a great leader in the Senate. Senator Johnson, let's just talk for a moment. Your priorities now as you come into this new term. There may be a Republican Senate. 51 is possible, 52 is possible. I don't know. Nobody's smart enough to know. But what will your particular priorities be, sir?
Well, I wrote a column that I think will be running the Wall Street Journal tomorrow. But basically what I lay out is the fact that we have to restore function to Congress. It's going to be difficult to accomplish a whole lot with President Biden in office, but at least we can do is pass a budget to drive an appropriation process. I certainly want to be a very conservative budget. Look at rescissions, look at the spending cuts to bring it as close to balance as possible. If you can't balance it, what we certainly can do is we can, increase the debt ceiling, but use that debt ceiling the way it was intended to be used to pass fiscal controls. I have 4 bills in mind: Preventing Government Shutdown Act, Full Faith and Credit, the REINS Act, and here's one I really like: reducing the size of the federal government through Attrition Act. You don't have to fire anybody; just don't hire anybody, including 87,000 new IRS agents. And then you start an appropriation process starting in April, and you bring up each appropriation bill one at a time, debate them, and vote on them. Again, I don't think Democrats will necessarily cooperate with us, but if they want to vote against funding our troops, let that be on the record.
Is it possible to restore in the budget process, committee hearings, regular order, witnesses testifying pro and con, instead of having these deals where 4 people get into a room and make a decision on a gargantuan $4, $5, $6 trillion package without anybody knowing about it? Is it possible to do it the way it should have been done and has been done in the past?
It's entirely possible. We're going to go through that backroom dealing here in the next couple of months because we have a CR and there'll be some massive omnibus. But looking forward, if we get to both chambers, we certainly can. Even with one chamber, with the House, they can go through that process, pass a budget, and then bring up appropriation bills, send them over to the Senate. And then hopefully we'll be in charge. We can bring up those appropriation bills. But this is incredibly important because what sparked 40-year high inflation was the massive out-of-control deficit spending. And as Milton Friedman once said, inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. And so we need to, by the way, look at both sides of that equation. Too many dollars facing too few goods. So reduce deficit spending to reduce the number of dollars, but increase the number of goods. I heard your previous guests. We need to address the supply side. Start producing and incentivizing people to do so.
Well, we could cut spending on the one side. We could also cut taxes and regulations on the other. That would achieve, a good part of this. Is it possible to rescind any of the prior spending which caused the inflation in the first place?
Well, I see no reason why you can't eliminate the $369 billion Green New Energy or Green New Deal energy boondoggles, that corporate welfare go in the pockets of people like Al Gore. I think that's incredibly important. The other thing we ought to do is establish certain principles. We should do a lot of oversight, and our oversight should be directed toward government programs that reduce our freedom, harm our economy, harm individuals. And we should not pass any bill that increases the size, scope, or cost of government. So just lay out those basic principles and evaluate every piece of legislation that's being proposed. Say, no, that's going to go government. We're not going to bring that up.
And Senator, will you continue your oversight of the FBI, of Hunter Biden's laptop, and all of those things?
I will. It'll be a lot easier and more effective if we have the majority. So I have the gavel. I'd be chairman of the permanent subcommittee on investigations. I'd still be ranking member. And we continue to do our investigations, but it's a whole lot easier if you have subpoena power.
I mean, we've had Jim Jordan on, right, subpoena power, I get that, absolutely. You know, a lot of these agencies, Justice, FBI, perhaps the IRS, they've been weaponized. They've become political weapons, and that's not the job they're meant to do. And I don't know how you deal with that except to have oversight hearings.
Well, the good news is there are plenty of people with integrity in those agencies that are starting to come forward as whistleblowers to Jim's committee, to ours, to Senator Grassley's committee. So people want to have their agencies restore credibility to them and integrity. And so they're coming forward. And it's crucial because we need to know what's happening. We need documents that they can supply. They have whistleblower protection. We have very strong laws regarding whistleblower protection. So I encourage people in these agencies, if you want to restore credibility to your agencies, come forward, talk to us. We'll give you that whistleblower protection because the only way we're going to reform these agencies is through exposure.
Senator Ron Johnson, once again, I mean, we've known each other a good while. Congratulations on your victory. Congratulations.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You bet.